So good. All right.
Hello, friends and family. Dan Lindsay here for the record and opening and calling this meeting to order. Reading our announcement, this is a public meeting subject to public meeting law, and it will be digitally recorded. Deliberation of issues will only be conducted by this committee's policy committee members unless permitted by the chair. Remember to always state your name for the record. For cases dealing with denial or revocation, only information contained in the staff report can be considered once the staff report is adopted. Assumptions, outside knowledge, or personal experiences should not be included in any discussion. And individuals who engage in disruptive behavior that impedes official business will ask to be stop being disruptive or leave the meeting. Additional measures may be taken to have disruptive individuals removed if their continued presence poses a safety risk to the other persons in the room or makes it impossible to continue the meeting. I will call for introductions.
Of course. When I call on you, please state your name and who you represent for the record. We'll start with you, Chair Lenzen.
Dan Lenzen, Chair of this Private Security Investigators Policy Committee, business owner and private security.
And up next, virtually, we have Member Berg.
Good afternoon, Ken Berg, representing the manufacturing industry down in Medford, Oregon.
Member Krieger.
Good afternoon, Scott Krieger, employed by Northwest Natural, representing businesses that contract with security.
Member Flaw.
My name is Ed Flaw. I'm the representative for alarm monitoring. I'm the corporate trainer up here in Beaverton at First Response.
Thank you. Member Nakasone.
Good afternoon, Nate Nakasone, unarmed representative.
And I believe we have Member Schultz online as well.
Good afternoon, Matt Schultz, healthcare representative based out of Portland, Oregon for Legacy Health.
Member Snyder.
Helena Snyder, representative of private investigator industry.
And Member Stone. Member Stone, can you hear us?
Mentality.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I'll go first. Juan Lopez, Executive Assistant, DPSSD. Would you like to go next?
Emma Detweiler, DPSSD staff.
Carissa White, DPSSD staff.
Susie Herring, DPSSD staff.
Marie Atwood, Professional Standards Director, DPSST.
Jennifer Howell, DPSST.
Michael Holsapple, DPSST.
Back to you, Chair Lanza.
Excuse me. So move right along. We have a fabulous introduction of the process that we are going to be doing today from Susie Herring.
One moment, Chair, sorry, did you say?
I saw Ralph coming in.
Okay, do you want to give it just a few seconds because he is a new member and it would be beneficial for him to
stand by.
hear it. Okay.
Stand by. Mute yourselves.
Oh yeah, we could approve minutes at any time.
All right, yeah, we've got a quorum. That's great. So yeah, that's what we will do. We'll move on to. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes? Anybody need time to go read the minutes? Oh wait, I'm joking. Anyway, I would like to get somebody to make a motion to approve the minutes.
And that's just by consensus.
Ken Berg for the record.
So for minutes, this is Marie Atwood for the record. For approval of minutes, all we need is consensus from the group, which means it's more of a, if anyone has an issue with the minutes, chime in now or forever hold your peace.
As she said.
Oh, your name tags right there. Where is it? Yeah, perfect.
Travis, we're introducing ourselves.
Sounds good. You guys already introduced yourself?
Yeah.
All right, well, my name is Travis Ralph. I've been in private security for about 5 years, and I'm excited to serve the board and to hopefully make positive changes within the state.
And you're representing?
What's that?
And you're representing what arm of our policy committee?
Say that one more time?
You are armed?
Yes. Yes, sir.
You're representing the armed segment. Just confirming.
So, catch up, we've done introductions, we've read our announcement, and now on to meeting procedures.
Thank you, Chair. I thought today would be a good day to go over just the procedures for the committee reviewing the civil penalty cases. We have two new members, Member Ralph and Member Blah, and there are probably some other members that have not reviewed civil penalty cases before. And so I thought I'd take a moment just to kind of walk you through what that process is and what your role is as a committee member when you're looking at that. So you, as other committees with DPSST, you will see that some look at revocations or denials, and this committee will not look at those types of cases for private security. You will look at cases relating to civil penalties. And those are a result of an investigation that one of the compliance investigators has completed and found violations. We do work with those individuals to try to get them to come into compliance, whether that could be mitigation or stipulation process. And you're seeing the cases that neither one of those things have happened. So there's not been any mitigation or there has not been any resolution through a stipulation. So when you look at those cases, they're coming before you and you're seeing the full civil penalty amount. So we may have a case that we're looking at and we're able to go through a process called stipulation where we can either reduce or lower that penalty and have them come into compliance. But when there's non-compliance, the policy committee will review that for the full civil penalty amount and then make a recommendation to the board for the full civil penalty amount. And once that process has been completed, then that individual will be imposed that full civil penalty amount. So it's not the committee's role to look at whether or not you want to lower it or add more to it. It's just the total amount that you're seeing today. So you're provided with two cases that had civil penalties, which both coincidentally were Carissa White's cases, and you will see that there were violations and they're listed the OAR that the individual had violated, and then you're going to look at some materials and conduct that occurred during that investigation, and then we'll also provide you any relevant information that may help you make that determination. But once we discuss that, then it goes to the committee to maybe certainly ask any questions of the investigator if you do have any questions, and then we want to adopt the staff report. Once you adopt the staff report, and that's made by a motion and a second, and then a vote to adopt the staff report, then there is also just some further discussion if needed. You wouldn't want to adopt the staff report if you felt that there wasn't enough information or evidence for you to make a decision today. And the decision to adopt the staff report discussion then leads to whether or not this committee wants to take action or no action. So that would be the final motion, that you would make a motion to take action or take no action. And that would be the imposition of the full civil penalty amount, and then it would go before the board at their next scheduled meeting. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions? It looks like Ken Berg's hand is up.
Yes, Ken Berg for the record. Thank you very much for the explanation. I just want to go on record that I don't know if this would be considered a conflict of interest. However, one of the witnesses in one of the particular cases, who is the lead officer on duty at the time when this investigation took place, I actually know. She worked for me many years ago. So I just want to make sure that this wouldn't be a conflict of interest and ask the board's opinion on what direction you'd like me to take. Shall I abstain from voting in that particular case, or shall I drop off the call? Or due to the time frame of how long it's been since that person has worked with me, there wouldn't be any conflict of interest.
This is Marie Atwood for the record. I can address this question for the group. As far as conflicts of interest go, the two types that we see sometimes in these meetings are actual conflicts of interest, which mean some tangible impact might affect you after, based on the result of what happens here today, or a perceived conflict of interest, which is more you have a connection to someone involved in the case, or maybe someone who's facing the civil penalty, but otherwise the result of today's action won't impact you directly. For an actual conflict of interest, for the most part, we would expect a recusal from any decision-making or deliberation, but what you're describing sounds more like a perceived conflict based on a past connection. As long as you
Correct.
are comfortable and you don't believe it would influence your decision or deliberations today, we're comfortable having you remain.
Perfect. I will remain. I feel comfortable. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, and I would also note if anyone has a perceived conflict of interest, always just say so on the record so that we can avoid something coming up down the line without the committee having been made aware in advance. Thank you all.
And then before we go to Carissa for the report on this, I'd like to suggest that we have any discussion afterwards. We call for discussion, then we go to motion. And to you.
All right, thank you, Chair. Carissa White for the record. Today I'm presenting the department's case against Thorson Eric Hartman for the violations of the Private Security Services Providers Act and corresponding administrative rules as an unarmed instructor. A department investigation revealed Hartman failed to cooperate or respond to an investigative inquiry or demand to examine books and records. After receiving multiple complaints regarding Hartman's failure to complete PS6 training affidavits after delivering private security professional courses, the department requested from Hartman all unarmed professional training records for the professional courses that Hartman had delivered in 2022 and 2023. The request was sent in December of 2023, requesting Hartman supply the requested records within 20 days of the request. No response was received from Hartman until January 30th of 2024, where he stated, "I will get on this response and the requested records right away, and should have something to you within a couple of days." After nothing was received from Hartman, a notice of violation was issued in April of 2025, proposing the assessment of $11,250 civil penalty for the failure of cooperate or respond to an investigative inquiry or demand to examine books and records for 15 30-day periods from January of 2024 until March of 2025. Failure to cooperate or respond to an investigative inquiry or a demand to examine books and records is a violation of Oregon Administrative Rule 259-060-0450, subsection 3, subsection 4B, little b, and allows the department to propose the assessment of a civil penalty as a result. At this time, I would entertain any questions regarding the case.
Helena Snyder for the record. It's my understanding that you still never received any type of communication from him even after the notice of violation was sent, correct?
I have recently received records from him in July of this year after we mailed a notice of preliminary notification of denial.
Sorry, I didn't see that last sentence. Thank you.
And then Member Nakasone.
Nakasone, unarmed for the record. I just wanted to inquire about in the timeline, it looks like there's a gap of about a year from January 30th, 2024 to April 8th, just over a year, 2025. Is there anything pertinent happening in that time, or is that just is there a reason for that gap?
Just working on other cases, hoping he would supply the records. And he did not.
Nakasone for the record, sounds good. One more question on the response that he gave of giving or having it to you within a couple of days. Did he give a reason for not having responded to the first one? The timeline mentions that was the first time he had seen the request.
Yes, that's what, it's within your packet, his email to me and from me. He basically indicated that he had not seen that email, and that was the first time he had seen it, and he would get right on it.
Understood. Thank you. I think I missed that in the attachments.
It's page 30, this is Helena Snyder for the record, it's page 35, if that helps.
Thank you, Helena.
So assuming everybody's read all 50 pages of this report, thank you. That was pretty deep. Any other questions? Okay, fabulous. Does anybody need more time to read? Again, joking. That's a lot to read. We assume everybody came prepared. There's a lot of stuff in this report. Thank you so very much, and for laying it out for us. As far as procedure at this point, checking with all y'all, do we want to make a motion to affirm or not affirm? Is that where we're going with this?
To adopt the record?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be the next step, and then discussion of aggravating mitigating circumstances.
Okay, so we're asking for a motion to affirm or not affirm the report, correct?
Kenberg for the record. I'll make the motion to affirm.
Alex Stone, I second.
Thank you. Thank you all for the very good questions. I appreciate that. Call for vote. Or we asking for any more discussion? Is that what we're doing? Is that what I heard from Marie?
If you make a motion in a second for the adoption of the
Then you gotta
record, then
vote.
it's a
Yeah.
vote.
Copy that. Call
All
for
right.
vote.
Regarding the motion to adopt the staff report, Chair Lindsay,
Aye.
Member Berg,
Aye.
Member Krieger,
Aye.
Member Flaw,
Aye.
Member Nakasone,
Yes.
Member Ralph,
Aye.
Member Schultz,
Aye.
Member Snyder,
Aye.
and Member Stone.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, again, I'm just checking, making sure I'm going in the right direction for procedure. We've got motion, we passed, we have motion second passed to move the report to the board, correct?
So it's approval of the staff report right now,
Approval of staff-
and then it's
staff report.
open just for any further discussion that
Okay.
the committee wants to have on the record.
Okay, so y'all know this, I'm making sure that, I wanna make sure that I'm doing this right. This is a little different than we've had before, which is
Correct.
very cool that we're actually got some meat and some of those that have been at the table here. I bet this is really interesting for all y'all. Any other discussions?
Helena Snyder for the record, actually just maybe a general question, and I don't know if this is the right forum. As far as collection on the civil penalty, how does that go? I mean, and I believe it's a pretty significant amount, and so I was just curious to find out if there's a timeline or process.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Susie Herring for the record. So we do entertain a payment plan if someone chooses to go on a payment plan, and we will typically manage it through our program if we're able to. If a person defaults on the payment plan, then it goes up to our business services office, and they monitor that for a 30, 60, 90 day. And if it defaults at that point, then it goes to Department of Revenue for collections.
Perfect, thank you.
So if nothing else, Chair, then we would ask for a motion for action or no action.
Okay, to move on. Okay. Okay, I'm calling for motion to move this report to the board.
Matt Schultz for the record, healthcare representative. I moved a motion to take to the board.
Kenberg for the record. I second that.
Any other discussion? Making sure I've got the procedure correct. Are we going in the correct direction? Okay, then we'll call for a vote.
All right, regarding the recommendation to the board of action or no action of proposed civil penalty, Chair Lindsay,
Aye.
Member Berg,
Aye.
Member Krieger,
Yes.
Member Flaw,
Aye.
Member Nakasone,
Yes.
Member Ralph,
Aye.
Member Schultz,
Aye.
Member Member Snyder?
Aye.
And Member Stone?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, moving on to the Norris case.
All right, thank you, Chair. Carissa White, again for the record. Today I'm also presenting the department's case against Melinda Naresh for violations of the Private Security Providers Act and corresponding administrative rules as an executive manager for Spartan Security Group, LLC. A department investigation revealed Naresh employed 2 individuals to provide private security services at Lava Sports, LLC, located in Medford, Oregon, on December 27th, 2024, who had not completed the training and application process required under the Act and these rules, violating Oregon Administrative Rule OAR 259-060-0450, subsection 2I. At this time, I will entertain any questions. No questions?
Dan Lenzen for the record. I see that Trevor Morris and Aaron Aguilar have, or Trevor Morris has a PSID and Aaron Aguilar did not have a PSID. Remind us about Trevor had and expired, is that correct?
Correct. He had not renewed
Nice.
his certification.
How long had it been?
Since he renewed,
Yeah.
let's take a look at him, maybe. He expired, or was admin termed in 2018. So he did not hold a valid certification since 2018.
Till 2024.
He held an event and entertainment from August 2021 till August 2023. And then that was the last that he had.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, or discussion on this?
Looks like Member Krieger?
Just a quick question. When you said admin term, is that like a sanction action or is that, can you just explain to me what that means?
Administrative termination is where they fail to meet whatever the requirements of the application at that time, so they had some outstanding deficiencies.
Got it.
They did
Okay,
not-
thank you.
All right, again, check and make sure they're going in the right direction. We call for a motion, correct, for the report.
Yeah, to approve or adopt the record of the report.
Okay, calling for a motion to adopt the record on the report.
Stenberg for the record. I'd like to make the motion to adopt.
Nakasone, unarmed, second.
Thank you, folks. Call for vote.
Okay, regarding the motion to adopt the staff report, Chair Lenzen?
Yes.
Member Berg?
Aye.
Member Krieger?
Yes.
Member Flaw?
Aye.
Member Nakasone?
Yes.
Member Ralph?
Aye.
Member Schultz?
Aye.
Member Snyder? And Member Stone?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Great. Now that we've adopted the report, any other discussion before motion to move to board? All right, I think we're all getting this. Call for motion to move this report to the board.
Matt Schultz,
Sure.
healthcare representative for the record. Move to the board.
Helena Snyder for the second.
Do we have any other discussion? Elena, have anything else?
I do not.
Okay. All right, call for a vote.
Okay, regarding the recommendation to the board of action or no action of proposed civil penalty, Chair Lenzen?
Aye.
Member Berg?
Aye.
Member Krieger?
Yes.
Member Flaw?
Aye.
Member Nakasone?
Yes.
Member Ralph?
Aye.
Member Schultz?
Aye.
Member Snyder?
Aye.
Member Stone?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Great, and in past, we've had department reports. Did you want to have any of those?
Chair Linzen, we will get to the agency report, but I think you have agenda item number 5.
Oh, it's on the back side, I'm sorry. Oh, we've got that rule change. So if all y'all have been following along, and I'm just gonna give an introduction to this. We have had the administrative rule OAR 259-590010, and then 020, and then section 60, 10, 201, and 450. They've been at the forefront of conversations in the past year. Jennifer Howell is going to give us this report on.
Thank you, Chair Linzen, members of the committee, Jennifer Howell for the record. So today we have some rule changes for you, centered around Senate Bill 300, which just passed during this 2025 legislative session. So effective June 26, 2025, Senate Bill 300 changes the Oregon Revised Statute, or ORS, definition for a private security entity. The definition of a private security entity is what DPSST uses to determine who is required to have a private security entity license. The changes that this bill made to the definition of private security entity mean that the licensing requirements will only apply to entities that provide private security services to other persons. This is commonly known as contract private security services. As a result of Senate Bill 300, DPSST identified 2 issues that needed to be addressed through rule changes. The first issue is the technical side of things, where we want to make sure that the definitions in our rules match the definitions that are in statute. And that definition is now in effect per Senate Bill 300. So looking to the rule changes that are in your memo on page 2, you'll see the first rule, Administrative Rule 259-059-0010, and this is the definition rule for the entity licensing program. The rule change shows deletion of the term engaged in the business of providing private security, and amendment of the definition for private security entity to match that found in Senate Bill 300. The next rule is 259-059-0020, and DPSST finds that with the new definition for private security entity and deleting the definition of engaged in the business of providing private security, it's no longer necessary to include paragraph E from that section of the rule. So that's shown as the strike-through language. The next rule is OAR 259-060-0010, and this is the definition rule for the private security provider certification and licensure program. The rule change will delete the definition of private security entity from the rule division. We included within your memo as a reference the definition for employer, because this term remains and is applicable to the provider rule division 60. And will also be referenced later on in this memo and presentation. So this transitions us to the second issue addressed by the remaining proposed rule changes. And before House Bill 2527 and the private security entity licensing requirements went into effect, all businesses employing private security providers were required to follow the certification and licensure requirements for providers. So even though Senate Bill 300 changes the definition of a private security entity and no longer results in licensing for all businesses that employ private security providers, all employers still have to comply with private security provider certification and licensure requirements. Meaning employers must have a licensed executive manager, and all employees who are providing private security services must be certified or licensed. And failure to comply with the provider certification and licensure rules may result in civil penalties. Some of you may recall that when the private security entity licensing requirements went into effect in 2024, DPSST made rule changes to transfer some employer-specific requirements about prohibited business names and that requirement to have a licensed executive manager. We transferred all of that language to Division 59, which was the entity licensing rules. So now that there are proprietary businesses and other employers that are no longer required to have the entity license, DPSST recommends restoring the language to Division 60 that had been removed previously. So you'll see that on page 4. This is a proposal to readopt. The rule number would be 259-060-0201. Before it was rule number 200, and that was repealed. We can't use the same rule number, so we're using the next number adjacent. It really kind of shows that we had this before, we're bringing it back. It's all the same content and information. So this reinstates the requirement for the employer to have the licensed executive manager and references that statute regarding prohibited business names. And then that final rule is Oregon Administrative Rule 450, relating to private security provider compliance and civil penalties. And you'll see additions to the reference for violations of the requirements that were just found in 201. Again, for both of these rules, these requirements and their application to providers and employers of providers existed prior to the private security entity licensing program. Now that we have different classifications of businesses and employers, we're just bringing those back so that they are present and applicable to all. I have some information on fiscal impact statement, and then I'm happy to take questions about everything. The fiscal impact statements outlined in your memo are more accurately impacts that generated as a result of the passage of Senate Bill 300 than the actual rulemaking that we're doing today. However, since the rules are the result of the bill, the fiscal impacts are highlighted here. First, the change to the definition of a private security entity has a fiscal impact on the department. It reduces the number of applicants who are required to obtain a license, and therefore decreases the revenue available to the department for administration of the private security entity licensing program. There were no other state agencies that were identified as fiscally impacted by these rule changes. There will be some units of local government and some small businesses that may no longer be required to have a license under the new definition. So those businesses or entities would have a positive fiscal impact, no longer paying the licensing fee and the other associated operational cost of the entity license. And then we always acknowledge that small businesses include private security professionals, private security executive and supervisory managers, private security instructors, and entities that employ private security providers. These rule changes are not expected to create any new fiscal impacts for any of those individuals, as there aren't any actual changes to how we have compliance and enforcement of the entity and the provider rules. So, happy to take any questions.
Helena Snyder for the record. I didn't do my research on SB 300, and I guess I know from a year or two ago you spent a significant amount of time developing the private entity rules and that we approved of back then. Do we know what spearheaded the Senate bill to now kind of revert back to the old language? I'm just kind of curious because we spent a significant amount of time on this too, so.
Certainly. Jennifer Howell for the record. So for historical purposes, House Bill 2527, that was a 2021 bill, and it went into effect January 1st, 2024, and that's the entity licensing program. And the way that that bill was written and interpreted and applied, it applied to anyone who employs a private security provider. So the professionals, the executive managers, supervisory managers, and instructors. So all types of businesses, from school districts to some governments to those who have their security in-house. So let's say a business like a Target or a Fred Meyer or another type of retail store that they hire and they employ people internally for their own internal security services. And then those who have companies that do the contract services for others. So maybe they're hired to provide security for a stadium or an event or something like that. So any employer of a private security provider fell under House Bill 2527. So all of those businesses were required to have a private security entity license. Constituents came forward to senators, representatives of the state, and asked for a change that would remove that proprietary aspect. There were discussions on what was the original intent of 25-27, whether it was captured or not. But through the legislative process, it was decided to change that definition from being broad to just those that provide those who provide private security services to other persons.
Thank you.
I get long-winded.
No, I think it's
Okay.
helpful, but I also think it's helpful for the refresher as well as for those that are new that may not know, so, thank you.
So backing up into Dan Lindsay for the record, 2527, had a lot of folks have to be, get an entity licensure, and now some folks don't have to. What's the economic impact of the reduction?
Broadly, Jennifer Howell for the record, and then if you want to add more to it, you're welcome to, Susie. Broadly, we're calculating that as we go along. So we know that it reduced the quantity by at least 50%, more likely a little bit more than that. So the number of applicants, and Susie may have numbers. I don't work in that department, so I don't have the numbers of applicants that we have. But it just, yes, it reduces by at least 50% the number of entities who are licensed in the state of Oregon.
Sure, I'll speak to that, Chair. So as you all also remember, members, seen that we were doing a fee increase for the entities, and that was even with the projection of what the collective group was. So as you can imagine, peeling back half of that, it is really pretty significant for that program. We have since moved one, we had an office specialist in that group. We had three positions that we received. We received an office specialist, a compliance specialist 2, and a compliance specialist 3. And we had moved one, the office specialist 2, over to the private security program to offset some of that even prior to us asking for the fee increase. We were unsure of what we were going to do with the 2 positions that we had. We have one individual that has taken work out of class within this agency in a different program. So we will have a little bit of cost savings with that. We do. So Michael, sitting here as he introduced himself, is running the show, so to speak, by himself. And we're broadly, as Jennifer said, we're looking to see what that is going to be. We were thinking probably about 300 if it's a go, as far as getting people into compliance. So it's a heavy workload for Michael right now, because when we originally had these conversations, we thought we'd be up in the thousands, like we'd have 1,000 entities. And then coming and doing a more thorough review of those, the numbers were going down. And then as the numbers were going down, when you eliminate a larger group such as proprietary, the contract group is significantly smaller. So we're still evaluating that. We have several that are in compliance right now, but we have several that are out of compliance. During my agency update, I was going to give some of the compliance checks that staff have been doing, but to report specifics, I think the last time I ran a report, we had about 170 plus that were licensed, but we have like 300 and some that we're still looking through to find out if they require security certification, because we still have them in the system. We don't even know if they're active. So there's a lot of compliance efforts as well. So Michael's doing his best. He's done a lot of closeout for 2024. Those that did not come into compliance as required by that law will then be looking at moving for civil penalty to the board at some point in time based upon his investigations. But yeah, it's pretty significant for sure. And I could continue to report on that at the next meeting to see where we're at with things in November. Sure.
Yeah, let's do that. So, all right, this was a long and almost contentious at times conversation. many, many months ago, year ago, whatever it was. And so we added this licensure. We removed some folks. You answered why we removed some folks because of 300. We've been, and I'm just doing this in review. We've let all y'all know that the entity division is 59, and then the personnel is 60. So if that helps define it, it's a lot of words, it's a lot of stuff. But for the folks that like to read rule and statute, they are very helpful for you to answer to your constituents what all of this means, because all y'all are representing a lot of folks, and I'm just gonna say right now that number is at 24. Is that where we're at? Private security?
What number? Sorry.
Private security total in the state?
About 27.
27, okay.
Certifications.
All right, so all y'all have a pretty heavy lift. I just want to make sure that we're very clear that all y'all are representing a lot of other folks. And sometimes we have to put our personal desires off to the side, but then also too, we could say why we're doing it if it's a personal deal. So the global mentality, I think, is really important where we're going with all of these things. So that was the proposed rule. Thank you, Jennifer. All y'all are just, it's amazing what you guys are dealing with right now. Anything else?
So on page 6 of the memo, there are 2 action items. The first one asks the committee for consensus or any feedback on changes to the fiscal impact statements. And then the second action item would be the committee's motion, second, and vote on whether or not to recommend that the rule changes be adopted by the board.
So we're asking for motion and second on the report first, is that right? No.
No.
So Maria, for the record, consensus, so just kind of the thumbs up
Aye.
or any dissenting comments would be made at that time, but just a general consensus on specifically the fiscal impact statement or lack thereof for this.
Got it.
Kind of the acceptance of what our determination of fiscal impact would be, and then we do the vote before moving it to the board.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then, so we're calling for consensus. Any dissents? Is that a word?
Sure, I think so.
Today it is.
Just use it 2 more times.
Okay, Limp Bizkit reference. Anybody else have any comments on this? Okay, then we move to motion.
Yes, so recommending the board approve the rule as we have discussed and heard about today.
Okay, as said.
Kenberg, for the record, I'll make a motion.
I'll
Matt
second.
Schultz, I second.
Was that Schultz with the second?
I think so.
Okay. Who had the second?
Matt Schultz and Scott Krieger at the same time.
I'll defer to Matt on that. He beat me to the punch.
Okay, so regarding the proposed rule changes for the OARs 259-059-0010, 259-059-0020, 259-060-0010, 259-060-0201, and 259-060-0450. All right, Chair Lenzen
Aye.
and Member Berg.
Aye.
Member Krager?
Yes.
Member Flaw?
Aye.
Member Nakasone?
Yes.
Member Ralph?
Aye.
Member Schultz?
Aye.
Member Schneider?
Aye.
Member Stone?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Moving on to the agency updates then.
Chair Lenzen, go ahead and start. I've got quite the list. Just my references in case. Susie Herring for the record. So I'm going to give you a bunch of updates, some statistics, and feel free to ask questions as I go along. So I've got some compliance visit updates I thought I'd share with you. We have staff going back out in the field, which is wonderful, doing compliance checks, doing some really good meet and greets with folks, and also coming up with investigations as a result of that. And I was going to give you some quick numbers on that. We have so far done 26 this year. We did 6 in March, 4 in April, 3 in June, 9 in July, and 4 in August. And Michael Holsapple has actually been spearheading that and grouping some other compliance investigators to go along with him. As far as stats for the investigators, we had in the last, I'm going to give you what we call the last quarter. So this is going to be April, May, and June. And so that's going to be 78 complaints were received by the program. We opened 295 cases, closed 248 cases. 15 of those were unfounded or non-jurisdictional. Provided 635 individuals training, and that's both online that people utilize Workday as well as in-person trainings that DPSST here provides. And just for what it's worth, I'd like to give you guys the information on our call logs as well. So we had over 3,598 calls, which equates to 225 hours that staff are on phones daily. And then we had 93 walk-ins. As far as applications processing for staff, we got that updated today prior to the meeting. We're currently at August 7th for unarmed, August 12th for managers and instructors, and we're current date on armed applications, as we always try to make sure that we do that. In the program, we have had a couple of changes. So those of you that may have met or remembered Steve Huizenga, who was our learning and development specialist, he has since left the program and actually left DPSST. And we were fortunate enough to get another DPSST employee to take the promotion and come into our program, and that is Crystal Maroney, and she is from the training side of DPSST, so she comes with lots of experience. She actually has already taught instructor development courses, which she'll be teaching one for us next week. And she also is a certified firearms instructor, so we're really excited to bring her on board and have her help with our armed curriculum updates. We also had the committee, I made you aware that Chantel had moved over to the fire program a while ago. We were leaving that position vacant, having a little bit of vacancy savings there, and now the need for that position was required for us to fill that, and we had Autumn Edwards promoted into that position, which she was an OS2 with us, processing like crazy, getting us caught up on applications, so she's done a wonderful job. So she promoted, and they both Crystal and Autumn started on August 1st with us. And we do have a current vacancy for the OS2 position that Autumn was filling, and we're doing hopefully the final interviews for that tomorrow. We had over 160 applicants, and we're down to 6 that we'll be interviewing tomorrow. So hopefully we find a great person and we can get that person on board as well. I wanted to give some updates on, let's go to curriculum updates. So we had a revision to the manager exam, so any of you that will be taking that in the future, you'll see that those exam questions have been revised. So that was one of the projects that Steve completed for us before departing. And then also, those probably are interested in where we are at with the armed instructor and the draft for that. So what I currently have right now is a draft of the armed instructor or firearms instructor curriculum, and it includes instructor training information, classroom curriculum, and range curriculum. And we have DPSST staff working on that range curriculum right now. And
for those of you that may have listened to the board meeting, or maybe have heard staff talk about it prior to, we had to get the approval from the board to have a work group to get folks together to further discuss the curriculum and the rules that would relate to that and moving those forward kind of simultaneously. So we received the approval from that at the July board. So we will be recruiting for assistance with that work group. I just need to give Crystal a little bit of time to get on board and have her put some fresh eyes on what we have in draft form. I reviewed it myself. There is the curriculum itself is long, as well as an instructor toolkit. And the instructor toolkit was about 53 pages. The curriculum itself, I think it was about 160. But the way that it is formatted, I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of just the way that it was laid out as more of a lesson plan format. So we wouldn't have instructors technically like reading from a manual in front of a classroom, that they would be providing instruction with more detailed guide and structural approach to presenting the information during a lesson. And there's a kind of a key at the beginning of the curriculum, which includes some lesson points, includes some instructor notes, gives guides for specific tools that can be used, such as PowerPoints, corresponding PowerPoints, or maybe what to ask the student and maybe what you're expecting the response, or what we would expect the response to be, and maybe how to probe some of those questions. There'll be some exercises and portions that we have students read, including the assessments, breakouts, timelines, so keeping the instructor on time, like maybe they should be at this point at so many hours, the way that it's broken in. But the toolkit goes along with it. It has all the exercises included in the toolkit, more or less kind of like a resource to make copies and then use throughout the classes. So I don't want to say that that's what it's going to be. I just wanted to share with you where it's at and what I have reviewed of it. I know that we'll get a work group together after Crystal has been able to put some eyes on it, and then call a group together and maybe look through that and make sure that that's the track that we'll be going. So stay tuned for more updates on that. And then once the ARM curriculum gets completed, then obviously we'd move on to the unarmed as well. Let's see. Next, I wanted to share with you a little bit about the funding. I know when we went through the fee increase, and we had Joanna in here, you all were able to ask her some questions, and with the hope of having them be able to present something to you more often at these meetings. And that individual and that manager actually both left this agency, and this agency has 2 new individuals in that position, and so they're getting acquainted with what we do here and what we need and what you guys would like to see. So I don't have anything tangible to show you today, but I did want to just speak to it a little bit to give you some information. And what we do at the end of the biennium is there's always an extra month of overflow. They kind of call it the 13th month, because we end in June and start in July, but things have to process through that last month. So I will actually be meeting with the business services group next week. I need to get this schedule fixed so that I can meet with them prior to our meeting to provide you a little bit more update of information. But what I have is what was finalized after the 13th month, and it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. So overall, we were over budget by 100. It was 105%, and I say overall because I'm looking at all the programs that I manage. So if I break them out, the private security program was over
by 8%. So we were at 108%. Entities were at 99% and investigators were at 99%. So we were really, really close with all of our expenditures, with our, what it's called legislative approved budget. So we're allowed a certain amount that we can spend. We do take revenue in, but we can only spend what our expended, or what our, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyone?
Limitation.
Limitation, thank you. What our limitation is. So that if we look at our treasury, we may have some money sitting there, but we can't spend it unless we increase our limitations. And so that becomes your beginning balance. But if you hear me telling you we were over, we don't have much of a beginning balance, or if any beginning balance to move forward with. So like private investigators had just over 6,000, entities had just over 4,000, and security had nothing. And ideally, they look at us having about a 3-month reserve to move into the next biennium to cover personnel costs until we get the projections and our revenues kind of catching up. So I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to also remind you, those of you that may remember Joanna speaking to the fact that 90% of our costs are personnel costs, like what we pay for staffing, which means that leaves 10% left to buy computers, to pay our rent, to have systems that we want to have systems for. So I would expect that we would probably see another fee increase coming, and I think that we have had conversations over the last year about looking at that at a small portion. Like, why aren't we looking at that every year or every 2 years to just do small increments? And I personally am learning a lot from other state agencies that run their boards that way. I think we have looked at our funding a little bit differently because we're absorbed within DPSST. So as I said, we were over 8% in private security, but we're still open, we're still working, we're still here. And that's because we're part of an agency here, a whole agency that can kind of cover some of that to help get us by till we can kind of pay that back. The other piece I wanted to include as far as just statistical information, because it's something that you don't see, and hopefully all of this can be put into the report that we can provide in the future. But I just asked the business services folks to provide me with information regarding our DOJ costs. So anytime we do a denial or revocation or a civil penalty, people have the option for due process. So they can request a hearing, and then we use our attorneys, they represent us, and they can be represented or not. And when they exercise that right, we incur costs to that. And that is not only DOJ, but it was also Oregon Administrative Hearings. And it's not just, okay, we turn over the case and they start working on it. There's a lot of correspondence back and forth between staff, and they bill by the 10 minutes, anytime that we talk to them. And their costs, or their expense cost went up significantly, almost, I think it was 40% that DOJ costs went up. And so again, that's something that this program is gonna have to consider when we look at fee increases. So what I wanted to share was just, I asked business services, provide me that just for the last 6 months. So just since January of this year. And we've paid over $105,000 just in DOJ and OAH expenses, which is a lot. And so I wanted to make sure that that information was reported out. And as I said, I know this is important for you to hear this and see this as we move forward for potential fee increases in the future. So hopefully we can work with our business services partners and try to get something tangible that you can look at and see, rather than me just spitting out numbers for you. But I thought at the very least I would like to share that with you today. And let's see, I'm going to keep going here because I've got more. We are getting the PI subcommittee together.
I sent an email to Helena, we talked, I reached out to the 2 other individuals that are on the subcommittee, and we're trying to compile an agenda, and then we'll go ahead and schedule a meeting as soon as we are able. With the board meeting that just happened, as I mentioned about the board approving work groups, they approved another work group for us to get together for the private security entity. So as you know, the rules, as Jen said, were in effect as of 2024, and we were functioning. We've been flagging things that we potentially need to review, maybe make updates to rules, and get people's feedback. So we have one work group that will be starting probably next year, like 1st of next year, when we'll be able to do that. And then the other, those of you that were watching session, House Bill 2183, which is for individuals that get recognized for prior law enforcement experience to not have to take the basic professional courses, and that would be for alarm, unarmed, and armed, and they are able to take the refresher course. So that is there in statute now, but we don't have any rules to support it. So now that we have the approval for the work group, I will send out recruitments for that work group, and then Jen and I will get together and start working with those individuals to get some rules together, and those will come back to this policy committee for review. Let's see, project updates. This agency was approved to have an LMS. I'm not sure at what level our program will use it at all. Currently, we're using Workday. So more to come on that, but we are looking at moving away from our current system called Skills Manager. So I have been visiting with different vendors just to kind of hear what they have to offer. One of them, I really was hoping that we would move to them because they had offered pretty much everything that we would need. And there wasn't a cost to the program, but the cost was put on the individuals that were applying. And so the cost, I mean, we'd have a setup cost, but the cost for the individuals when we first were having the conversation was each applicant would pay a $5 fee to apply, and that would cover the cost of the program. And as we talked and got further down the road, it came to $15 per application. And I just don't know that that's feasible for the industry, but be that as it may, we can have conversations when we get to a point of what our online costs could be. But I do have an upcoming one that DCBS here for another state agency uses. And so I'm meeting with that business on Friday. So more to come because we would like to get online submissions of applications for our constituents. Let's see, we have vacancies I want to remind you of. Please share with your friends. Anyone that's listening or watching online, we still have a retail representative vacancy. We have a public member vacancy, and then we still have one investigator vacancy, and that person would be appointed by the Oregon State Bar. So that doesn't mean that it has to come from the Oregon State Bar, it just means that we need applications that then we submit over to them, and then they go ahead and approve that at one of their board meetings. And lastly, I'd like to update you all that our program actually was audited by the FBI because of our processing that we do for fingerprints. They came in and were checking how we process the background, what's the dissemination of information, the security of our documentation, and other requirements. And I worked with my team, we provided everything up front, sent them big packets for them to review of what we do, and passed with flying colors. So that was it was kudos to my team for reacting that way and getting all the information. And it was good to see and good for the agency as well. So that is what I'll leave you with, and I'll take any questions that you all have, or I'll defer to you actually if you've got more updates.
Questions are welcome. That was a lot of information.
Wow. Helena Snyder for the record, I guess with the increase in the DOJ fees, are you seeing positive results with that increase? And I mean, is it worth it, I guess, in the end?
That's a great question, Helena, and I would say that we are, all of our choices are being, or all of our decisions are being upheld. So we haven't had any reversals, which are great. It's just the time, I guess, the time that it's taking between
That was
the
my
two
next
agencies.
question, is it
Yeah.
timely?
No, and so it can be frustrating for the program, no doubt, of having to go back and forth and how lengthy some of the cases that we've had have been, but that's okay, we prevailed on those. But I don't know that we really have any other options
Right.
at this point.
Understood.
It's just what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Member Nakasone?
Nakasone, unarmed for the record. Well, thank you for that very detailed update. I heard a lot of good progress coming to that, so thanks. I also want to commend the compliance investigators, especially Carissa, for the 2 today, which was clearly a lot of work. And I would like to volunteer in your recruitment efforts for both that armed group as well as the entity groups.
Thank you. We will be sending that out probably via GovDelivery and emails. So make sure that you reply to that if you're interested.
Alex Dunn, Hospitality, and my daughter. I was wondering if I could make one suggestion, and I know we've gone back and forth on this. When it comes to fees, would it be possible to have a management fee that is a non-entity management fee? So these self-serve security entities, it's okay. The self-serve entities that are only providing security for themselves, if they could have to pay more for their management license than other companies, that might be an offset. And then again, I do like the idea of larger companies like an Allied. If there's an Allied, we could charge them by region. So if you have security guards in all regions of Oregon, we could break it up by county or zip code, and then also how many security guards they're employing, because that really comes down to resource management for y'all on your end. But whenever that conversation happens, I would love to be a part of it.
Great, thank you.
Without my daughter.
Oh, Helena Snyder for the record. Because I don't know, I know you talked about the financial side and you don't have the numbers. I was just curious, given the PI fee increase just, took effect in February, if you have had any notice as far as people not renewing licenses or any slowdown that's different from, per se, last year this time?
That's a great question. Susie Herring for the record, actually the numbers have sustained and have not gone up. Like I looked at them right before a meeting and I was quite surprised. Yeah, we're over 1,000 for PIs right now. We average anywhere from 7 to 850.
Good.
So, yeah.
Dan Lanson for the record, DJ costs and hearings, 105,000 over the 6 months. Where does that come out of the legislative budget? That's additional.
No, it comes out of our budget,
Okay.
but when the budget is created, sorry, Susie Herring for the record, when the budget is created, they look at our previous spending habits, if you will, and look at how much they should budget us for that. But when we go over it, then they're taking from other areas. So whether it be computers or supplies or things like that, they will have to take that to cover.
That comes out of the 10%.
Yeah.
Okay, so fewer paper clips if there's more hearings.
Yes, I get a lot of hand-me-down laptops around here because we're not able to purchase.
So everybody online, hand-me-down laptops are accepted?
No.
Clean ones, okay.
No.
So just making us smile. Anybody else online have any other questions? How about good of the order? You guys, Nate, you started it. Good of the order for anybody? I'll throw one in. Y'all are working really hard, man. Appreciate all y'all, and we've come a long way in the last year, understanding this unit more than we ever have, and welcome the new members. And there's a lot of learning to be had, a lot of reading to be had, and by my count, 161 pages for today was the number of pages if we read them all. And then sometimes if you gotta read them again, that's even more for some of us who are the double readers. So appreciate all y'all. So any other?
I'll chime in.
Yes.
Marie Atwood for the record. Since our director, Phil Castle's not here today, he would normally be at every policy committee meeting just to kind of, check in with everyone who's involved in our policy committees. This will be my first policy committee with this group. I'm fairly new to the role of professional standards director, but I'm really excited to be here. I want to say hello to everyone, including everybody online. For those of you who I haven't met, I try to make myself as available as possible. That said, Susie's the one with all the actual answers, so anything you ask me, I'll probably just turn to her with. I would like to just echo what's already been discussed. This group does such an enormous amount of work for what is overwhelmingly the largest constituent group that we serve, oftentimes with little to no resources, especially budgetary resources. So I never cease to be impressed by this group in our office and all the efforts they put in. I want to welcome all of our new members to the committee meetings, and I look forward to working with everyone. And one last word on the DOJ piece of it. Those costs have gone up dramatically. The thing that I think I have seen, if anything, is just an increase in the number of people who want to take their cases to administrative hearing. So it's a little bit of a cyclical problem where DOJ is hiking up their prices because there are more hearings and we're getting more hearings, which is costing us more money. We do not have the option to not use DOJ or to not allow people to have their due process. So it can be really frustrating and a major crunch for us when we can never truly predict what those costs will be in advance, and we still have to try to do so when we are begging the legislature for money. So it is just one more reason to be impressed with the work that's done here at the agency and with all of our committee meetings and our boards. So that's all I have for today.
Okay, pretty much amazing. Next meeting, right? That's where we're at on our agenda.
Yes.
Okay, our next meeting is November 18th at 1:30 here and online. So with that, I will